started the
Hello. Are the mics on? All right, that's the end of the game.
once he turns off the audio, the mics will be on.
We good?
All right, we need him to turn off the audio.
Yeah. They know, though, right? There we go. It's off. Yep.
No, that's
Oh. Do you want me to run up?
Louis.
Oh, baby. Oh, my God. We're live on Facebook. City Post Game Live is here. I have headphones. I'm not going to use them. Can you see my beautiful face? Oh, my God. I look like I'm a character in Aliens. My forehead is so big. I hate the lighting here, but that's okay. Hello, Ryan's daughter. My name is Trey Fillmore. I'm a member of Blue Balls Pod, NYCFC. Somehow, thank you. My reputation precedes me. Somehow they give me press pass tickets. I don't know why. But luckily, I'm joined by Mike from Blue City Radio. Mike, how you doing?
Thanks for joining me, Trey. It's not the result NYCFC fans wanted. This was a game that I thought they, after the 19th minute with the Tommy McNamara screamer, they thought they had in hand. But Colorado fought back. It's a tough result. I was thinking that after missing Villa for basically two and a half games, that getting 6 points was going to be a positive result. Getting 4, not so much.
Well, obviously it was disappointing, right? Because we were in control for a majority of this match. And there are a few, minor things to take in point that were positive and things that you can take home and be happy about. And, there are a few things that you should be disappointed in, right? Some of those are substitutions. Some of them are not playing a full 90 minutes when we had done well at doing that in the last 2 games. Firstly, you have to talk about the Tommy Mack goal, should we?
I think, first off, you have to talk about the lineup. Let's talk about
Sure.
the fact that how many of you guys out there thought that Andrea Pirlo and Tommy McNamara were going to be part of your midfield going into Colorado tonight? Because I think the Pirlo performance after Portland made a lot of people question Vieira's decision-making on that one. And the fact that he started this game, a game where you thought there was going to be a lot of possession for NYCFC. Colorado's a poor team in the West. But this was also going to be a situation where the altitude, how much was that going to affect the tired legs of Andrea Pirlo?
Well, it was interesting. Obviously, we saw Pirlo leave. I'm not mad that he played in this game. He did play outside of the huge mistake that lost us the game against Portland. Pirlo has been playing well in every single appearance he's had. And with injuries to Ring and Herrera, you have to expect that Pirlo has to play. He did keep possession in a difficult place so that Tommy Mack could get the ball to score the goal that put us ahead. So all those things need to be considered. However, are you scratching your ear because it itches, or are we too loud? It itches. Okay. Why are you wearing Yankee stuff? This is NYCFC. Oh, I know I'm a pained Orioles fan. That's okay. So I'm not too mad about that. What's interesting is Kyra Shelton yet again starting a game. After playing a full 90, a disappointing 90 against Toronto, and Ugo Okoli not getting the opportunity in Toronto, especially if you're going to play speed guys going forward in a high-altitude setting, and you're not going to put John Lewis in, and you're not going to sub out Kyra Shelton. When those are their strengths, why would you not do those two things? I'm not sure. There are some positive takeaways. I want to get to the first one very quickly before we take questions. Firstly is that the defensive shape in the first half was very interesting. You had NYCFC leaving a lot of open space in the centrally in the pitch, but that was because they were playing very high and man-on against their against the opposing team, and I think that was a strategy going into the game, and I think it worked extremely well for about 80 minutes of the match. They kind of left that in the second half, but predominantly in the first half, you saw the players playing very man-on, which left space, but Colorado couldn't take advantage of it, and I thought that was positive.
I think the other positive, and this was something I was talking to Mike about during the game, NYCFC in their possession was very controlled, very precise. It wasn't a possession where they were trying to make long, like lung-bursting runs and trying to play down the wings. This was a possession where they were methodical in controlling the ball, so they didn't have to worry about, being out of position. They didn't have to worry about having to make long recovery runs. They pushed forward as a team, and it really helped save some, save some energy for when they needed it.
I mean, that's true. There wasn't a lot going forward, and there didn't need to be a lot with a goal early. But all things considered, I mean, you didn't see a lot from the front three. You're disappointed with Rodney Wallace and the fact that he hasn't put in a good showing the last two games. You're disappointed with, the idea that Jack Harrison and Maxi Morales can make a pairing as a false nine, and neither of them are comfortable playing that position. That's disappointing. But outside of that, yeah, of course, there was some very good possession going forward. I heard a lot of people at the bar tonight here saying that we should have kept clearing the ball, and obviously that wasn't the case because every time we didn't, everything went positive. So there was a lot of good combination play going on. Like, this was something to build on, and the defensive lapse that led to the goal was just unfortunate and rare because the only good player that Colorado didn't sub out happened to have an opportunity.
So let's start with that. Did you think that Colorado was I couldn't understand their substitutions late in the second half because it felt like they took off two of their best players, the two players that were giving NYCFC the most struggle, Saeed and Gat.
Well, they took off all three of their good players. They took off Saeed, Gat, and Marlon Hairston, the three players that were linking the midfield to the offense in this game. Unfortunately, Baji did score late, but those three players are a reason why we looked in control. And we are a team that is still 50% a B team right now, so that's why you didn't see us taking advantage in the way that we should have. I mean, it's unfortunate. We had every opportunity to be on top in this match. There are things to build on, but with the poor again. They don't have a manager, right? Their manager got fired halfway through the season, Mastroeni, the mystical mustache, but they had every with the mistakes they were making, not only on the field but off the field. There was every opportunity to take advantage of this match, and unfortunately, the team didn't do it. But an away game, getting a point, we have to be okay with at least parts of it.
So I'm sure most of the listeners out there heard Janusz Mihalik say it. I agreed with him 100%. This was a game where Kyra Shelton, Jack Harrison, and Rodney Wallace basically did nothing. They were very ineffective in the attack, and it put a lot of more pressure on the midfield to be effective. The question for you is, let's start with Kyra Shelton. Is he a guy that you think is going to get minutes as we go into the tail end of the season? Now you've got Villa back, you've got Wallace back, and you can put Harrison back into his normal right wing position.
Great question. There's no reason why Kyra Shelton is getting minutes right now. I mean, objectively, there must be something he's doing in training to give him a reason to play 90 minutes in Portland when
We needed a goal late, and to play a majority of the match tonight, and to have John Lewis not play in this match, there's no reason. And with the performances on the field, I mean, Axel Sjoberg, who went in the same draft, really did do a good job of shutting out our offense tonight. And that's embarrassing because that's how it's been for 3 years with those two players. And it's just every time we play Colorado, I get that flashback that we should have traded down for Axel Sjoberg because that's a position we could have used. And obviously the value is tenfold on Kyra Shelton. With Jonathan Lewis, when you trade up to the second draft pick to get him, and pay that much money, and with the performances he's put in, especially on the road, you have to play that player. I don't understand. I understand some of Patrick Vieira's subs, but for some reason, the whole Kyra Shelton incident is just not making sense. I mean, when we were playing well in this game, Kyra Shelton was not involved, let alone when we were playing poorly. How's Facebook looking?
Well, we got 2 comments from Facebook. Joe Amato and Roddy Russell Jr. basically asking the same question. What is this team going to be without David Villa? Because he signed the extension through next year, so you got him from for this year and all of 2018. 2019, David Villa leaves this team. NYCFC has to figure out how to create an attack, and we're talking about it. Jack Harrison is a false nine, is not getting it done, and Rodney Wallace, for a guy who came out in the first 4 or 5 games and was an impact acquisition. Since the Gold Cup and since his injury has done nothing.
Well, firstly, you have to be positive with the whole fact that in MLS, if David Villa is not playing, we do have $10 million to throw around and get another DP, especially if we're going to open a new stadium. They're going to want to get a splashy player or whatever. I'm not too concerned with that. And there's plenty of target forwards that are out there. And in Vieira's system specifically, it should allow other players to grow well. I said on the podcast that we never put up because we made mistakes, but Ugo's being trained right now to be a complete forward, which is great for him. It's not helpful right now to this team when we need spot starters who are specifically good at certain things. But I think this team might be okay. I mean, we just beat the number 2 team in the West, albeit they are not good on the road. But we beat the number 2 team in the West at home without David Villa, and then lost by only 1 against Portland, who is a very good team. So I'm not too concerned. Again, he didn't get too many touches tonight. David Villa is the MVP. You can never replace an MVP, but at the same time, I feel like Vieira's got a good system going and that we'll have good money going forward. I think they're going to consider it. I think, this has been a wake-up call with David Villa being out this season as opposed to the other seasons where we weren't necessarily contenders, that we're going to need to pick a player that can make an instant impact and has some weaknesses, like Jordi Reyna on Vancouver, a player that has not been a starter but has literally carried that team to the number 1 seed in the West because he has been a spot starter and a spot sub and has used his attributes very well, and we do not have a player like that.
So you talked about substitutes. Let's talk about a highlight of the game. James Sands, 16-year-old, gets his first start. He replaces Andrea Pirlo. 66th minute, he got his first yellow card of the game, of his MLS career. What'd you think of the performance of James Sands? Because overall, I thought it was a pretty positive performance for a kid coming into a tough situation. It was NYCFC was leading at the time, but still had a lot of work ahead of him.
Well, this actually ties into our first Twitter question, which I got from Big Red Will Hawley. Shout out Will Hawley, who is on an airplane right now. He's mad at me that I wasn't texting him constant updates, but he said, did Sands do enough to get serious minutes going forward?
No,
I mean, there wasn't enough touches. That's fine. We've seen that from a lot of players. It's just there wasn't enough touches for him to make an impact. The substitution makes sense, right? Pirlo coming out later in the game in a high-altitude game away for a defensive midfielder makes sense, but Sands didn't get enough touches. He had a few good touches, and that's fine. I mean, it's good for him to see minutes. It doesn't make sense for him to not debut, not at home, but that's just the PR person in me, I guess.
The other thing you got to remember is we're talking about James Sands being a depth player behind Alex Ring and Yangel Herrera. So
also true. I mean, I think he can get minutes, but to Will's question, does this appearance mean anything in terms of getting serious minutes going forward? No, because we are going to get those players back. And, I mean, any minute he gets is good. That's one takeaway. But at the same time, like something like this isn't necessarily meaningful because he's only 17 years old, just 17. He turned 17 in July 6th, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that he, the best is yet to come. It's way too early to have any opinion on anything he's doing.
We do have to clarify. Roddy Russell jumped on us. The match center for MLS is clarifying that Tommy McNamara got that yellow card, not James.
He did. Yeah.
So,
Tommy got that yellow.
So his record's clean on that. The other part of the team that we didn't talk about, and I think it was the biggest positive for the team this game, was the play of the defense. Yes, Tommy McNamara got the goal, and we got to talk about that because it was a phenomenal shot and reminiscent of Tommy McNamara's screamers of old. But this was a game where NYCFC's defense really stepped up and as a complete solid unit did very well. I know Colorado's not a dangerous team, but they still had a lot of chances. They still had a lot of set pieces that the back line stepped up great. I mean, that one slide tackle by Callens on Hairston was one of the best plays of the game.
Of course. And you have to give credit to Brillant for stepping up in the absence of Chanot. And Callens has been so good all season. And these two guys that were here who are now watching the GGG Canelo fight, and I'm jealous, but that's okay, they brought up a good point, which is that R.J. Allen was the worst defender that has ever existed in MLS before he hit our coaches. And we have always had a habit of transitioning terrible defenders to good defenders. So you have to give credit. The fact that we've only conceded 2 goals in the last 3 games against 2 very good teams and one team that has some good striking abilities on the road is completely impressive. And obviously half of that is Sean Johnson being the best American goalkeeper alive in this month. And the other half is the fact that these defenders are stepping up. Callens has been unbelievable. So it was very, very positive. Obviously, the Badji goal, I think it was tired legs. I think it was in the 89th minute, and you're excuse my language, 5,000 whatever feet above sea level. So you're not going to, there's some concessions you have to make. But it was impressive. I don't know. Nonetheless, the defense was impressive.
No, I think
I need another beer.
I think the goal was also about NYCFC being a little caught off guard. You always get nervous when you're making a substitution and the opposing team has possession in your end. NYCFC, Vieira tried to pull the trigger. He brought in Struna, took out Jack Harrison. Here's a guy who's coming in to a position he's not familiar with. There's going to be that thought that Colorado's not going to play so direct, that NYCFC is going to have a time to set their alignment, set their positioning, and Colorado never gave them that chance. This was a quick, 1-2 punch right down the middle, and Badji was in on Johnson all alone. And Johnson, to his credit, did get a hand on it. It's just that ball just popped right at the wrong time.
Yeah, Johnson had a fantastic game. I mean, he had that leg save earlier that should have been a goal. He had a great game. He's had a great few games. Again, he's the best American goalkeeper in the last 2 weeks, so you have to give him some credit. And I saw a lot of people disappointed with the possession that we had where Ben Sweat had 2 shots on goal. But you also have to give Tim Howard credit. He's been playing well the last few weeks, and that was a great save on his point. So there was contributions all around, I would say.
Well, you mentioned Sean Johnson and Tim Howard in the last 2 comments, and I don't know how many people watched the Atlanta game today.
Yeah, Guzan, of course.
But the number 2 goalie for the U.S., Brad Guzan, conceded 3 against Orlando, and this is not an Orlando team that has been scoring a ton of goals. So that's got to be something that, on the positive for Johnson, opens a window, but on a negative, has to make NYCFC fans worried that they might lose
whatever. How selfish is it? How selfish is it for you to be upset that our goalkeeper makes the national team? Go drown yourself in a pile of anti-Americanism. You should be happy that we have a goalkeeper that has the quality to be one of the top 3 goalkeepers for this freaking country of 600 million people. Are you serious right now? Especially if you want the American team to do well.
if he was going to play.
If you understand, Tim Howard has lost 4 out of the last 6 games before us, and you have Brad Guzan, who looked like a frickin' totem pole in net today. You want someone like Sean Johnson in the net. Sean Johnson, who had the greatest save in MLS of all season last week, who has been unbelievable in the month of August and September. If he makes the team, we're pretty locked into the 2nd seed. And, of course, it would be disappointing if we don't make the 3rd seed. But how obnoxious would it be for me to say, oh, no, we're the 3rd team, not the 2nd team because Sean Johnson, blah. No, I'm going to be happy for him. He's a robot. He's given literally everything to this team. And if you're mad that he makes the national team after he's given a whole season worth of way more than we paid for to represent this country for just 2 games in 1 week, check yourself before you wreck yourself. Thank you.
My only comment is I'm worried about him going and not playing because that's what happened to him during the Gold Cup. He went and he didn't see the field at all. So if Nick Rimondo's going to start, then take Coward, take Raimondo, and take Guzan, and let Guzan be the 3rd guy who doesn't do anything.
Also true. I mean, there's plenty of good American goalkeepers. There was this stupid hubbub by, like, all these dumb American Twitter pundits who were saying that America is in a goalkeeper crisis when it's been the strongest position we've had for 3 decades. And I think that, you know, we have players like Bendick. We have players like Nick Raimondo. We have people like Robles. We have people, you know, there's good American goalkeepers to go around that are better than most goalkeepers in this country. So I'm not sure why, better than most people in this hemisphere. I'm not sure why it's a major complaint. And I think Sean Johnson would be honored. And we should be happy to have him represent this country as a member of this team, if anything, but to bring attention to our team.
Very fair.
Sorry,
point.
it's a touching. I'm a goalkeeper by trade, so it's a touchy subject for me.
Fair point. Roddy Russell has given us the score updates. Toronto is now leading LA 2-0.
Oh, whatever.
Out in
whatever.
Los Angeles, and at NYCFC Stadium now let us know that tonight's result definitely felt like a loss. So even though they got the point on the road, this was definitely a game where. When you're leading for that much of the game, to walk away with only 1 point as opposed to the 3, you know, that's a tough result, especially when Vieira seemed to be pulling all the right strings as far as his decision making with his substitutions. Bringing Villa in definitely made Colorado think about how much they could push forward, and I think that worked for a period of time. It's just the fact that NYCFC couldn't execute. You had Maxi Morales putting that ball across the goal mouth, and there was no one making that back post run.
Well, I think there's something important about David Villa playing in this match that didn't help, and having him as a sub didn't help, is that the reason why we haven't had more than 3 or 4 shots on target in the last 3 games of this season is that we haven't had David Villa on the field to suck space away from the other attackers. And so when you put him in as a last-minute sub when you're up a goal, when you're not really attacking the net anyway, then the benefit of him being on the field gets mitigated nonetheless. So to see him on the field, like, obviously it's whatever, but he wasn't in a position to make a contribution anyway. So, like, it's great to see him there. It would have been better to see him if we were down a goal. It would have been better to see someone that could have stopped Baji on that last run, like a Kwame as a defensive midfielder or something. Or someone with more energy, someone that's not, you know.
Who would have been playing that defensive position in front of Brillant at that point? That would have been Tommy McNamara, right?
Whatever. I don't know. I mean, there's not an easy answer to that question. Obviously, it's fine to see him, and good for him to get legs under him. But at the same time, like, what did David Villa being in the game help and bring to this game? I don't know. I'm not mad. He's the best player on our team, but at the same time, it's like there's no tangible reason or tangible answer, I should say, for him being in the game.
Going back to Twitter, Andrew Udero wants to know, was NYCFC just bad in the second half, or did Colorado improve? Because I think that's the...
I think neither.
Well, I think Colorado definitely got better. They definitely put more pressure on NYCFC, but the question comes back, was NYCFC playing more into a shell and trying to absorb pressure, or was Colorado being more creative in finding the space that they
I think Colorado and creative are antonyms. So I wouldn't say it's that. I think it's the fact we pulled back. Again, the fact that we played a real, I wouldn't call it a press, but a more man-on kind of defense in the first half, which was very successful. And then you saw coming out of the second half, they pulled back, and I don't blame the team for doing that. But there was no transition offense coming from NYCFC in this game. And that's unfortunate because you have Maxi Morales on the field. You think that would be possible. But without Younghell, without Ring, we don't have a box-to-box midfielder to take advantage of opportunities when the other team turns the ball over when we're playing more conservative defensively. So that's what happened. I need a beer. Hey, bartendress, can I get a Corona Light? Love you.
So Giovanni Trombetta wants us to discuss the fact his opinion is that he doesn't think that Patrick Vieira
Gio's watching?
Cares what position NYCFC finishes in the Eastern Conference. That he, based on the last couple of games, and that's a valid point. Is NYCFC just basically playing to try guys out in this stretch where they have a lot of injuries, or are they sitting there and
Thank you
they're
so much.
I'm good. Or are they? Is Vieira really just not concerned about first or second? Once they make the playoffs, that he's okay, and he just wants to get into the second part of the season.
Oh my God, that first sip of a new Corona Light is the greatest feeling in the world. Thank you, bartender.
Thank you, Louis.
I think both can be true. I mean, it's hard. You don't want to, in a division like this, in the East, you don't want to concede the second seed when you don't have to. We saw what Atlanta has done in the last 3 games, and so you don't want to be a team that has to play them. And you don't want to be a team that has to play a team like the Red Bulls, who historically have played well against us tactically. We do have a good cushion, right? And we do play Columbus at the end of the season, and that will be the game that matters, as well as Chicago, which happens on Yom Kippur. Don't think I don't know. But those are the 2 most important games, right? Like the Houston game next week, as I like to say, that game is not the most important. But the Chicago and the Columbus games are the most important. So with this game being away against a West Coast team, without a majority of our players, we have to take what we can and just build on it and give people minutes. So the only thing is, I'm happy that he gave minutes to Sands and Struna. I'm disappointed he didn't give starting minutes to other players. But you take what you can, so that's okay.
What does Kwame Awuah have to do to get on the field? When you take out Jack Harrison and put in Andre Struna, I actually thought of when Joe Tollison was announcing the next substitution, I thought Awuah was going to be the guy coming on.
Hey, you and I both have press tickets, and there's nothing the most obvious thing to me, and this is not Palace intrigue. This is this was so obvious it's not rumors. Is especially after the Kansas City game when we still had a substitution to give. Kwame Awuah did not say a word. He had his head in his hands after the game. And Mikey Lopez had to go up to him and counsel him because he was so disappointed he didn't get any minutes in that game. And there's no reason for him not to get minutes in that game. He only has about 4 minutes of playing time this season. He's a player that had 12 goals and 12 assists in his senior year at UConn. I mean, he was one of the ACC players of the year. He's one of the most versatile players coming out of the draft.
He's been called up to the Canadian national team.
Canadian national team, which, of course, part of that is politics because the same coach who coached him in U23, but that's okay because he still deserved it. But he's a player who is one of the most – he was the most what's that word? What's the word? He could play anywhere. Versatile, that's the word. He was the most versatile player coming out of the draft, and we traded up for him and paid money for him. There's no reason why he shouldn't be getting any minutes. So, especially when we want to know what we have in the future, are we going to waste draft picks like Connor Brandt and that? Is that really going to be what we're going to do? Are we just going to pretend like the draft doesn't mean anything? I mean, it's a possible way, but whatever. I don't know. I'm a little disappointed. Hey, hit him in the face. Do you want to do a question? We need questions, right? No, we don't want a question. Do you want to do a question? Do we have an audience question? Mike, you got to have a question. In fact, come over here so we don't have to turn the camera around and show. Oh, no. Hit him in the face is doing a question. You're in camera. Make sure you're in camera, though.
Oh, hey, what's up, guys?
You're live right now.
Oh, well.
What's the question for us?
So,
I'm going to hold the mic.
Yeah,
so I'm going to hold the mic so you don't take it over.
I can't do none of that. So, a question.
What's your name?
Well, I'm Manny.
Manny.
Yeah.
I like to call you hit him in the face.
That's right, because usually I would love that. Clearly not a contact sport, but we won't go there.
What question do you have for us tonight? I feel like I have to guide this conversation.
You have to, because I have no question.
What is your question for the team after this game?
Oh, yeah. Where?
If you had Patrick Vieira in front of you, what would you ask him?
So you guys spoke about defense already?
Yeah.
Hey, did we talk about that?
Yeah.
That's really the only question.
No, but ask anything.
That's really the only question.
Ask anything.
Yeah. What happened to the so-called defense?
On that goal?
I don't know. You told me.
You don't think they played well that game? Or the last 3 games?
I would love to hear your opinion.
Oh, I actually do have an opinion on this.
All right,
thank you.
Go ahead.
And I think you'll like it. How do we turn this off? I did. All right. Here's my opinion. If NYCFC wants to be one of the best teams in the league, we have to get a central defender that's better than Maxime Chanot. I'm sorry. I know that we're very good in the back right now with Briant playing out of his mind as a third defender.
That's a hot take and a half.
It is a hot take, and I'm not afraid of it because this is a very physical league, and if we want to be the best team and spend the money, like, we have to be able to have a consistent, great defender. And if other teams are going to spend their money on players like Joseph Martinez, on players like Almiron, on players like Nicky Lodero, on players like Giovinco, if that's where all the money's going, then we should do something preemptively to stop that. There's no reason, like, really, Maxime Chanot's great. I love him. But if you want to be the best team in a northern hemisphere, you have to have a better center back than Maxime Chanot. I don't know. I love all of the defenders we have, and I think Callens has been playing out of his mind this season. But at the same time, we need to have realistic expectations for this team. Like, and this is not addressing. This is completely separate from the fact that we have 0 wingbacks of the quality that we have of center backs. Thank you.
But I think the point that when you look at Chanot, I think Chanot is actually a better center back than we'll probably give him credit for. The issue is when you look at Toronto, and Toronto has to be viewed as the role model of building a team.
I don't know. I disagree.
But Toronto's playing 3 in the back, and that's what Vieira's been trying to get to.
It is. That's what he did against Portland, and we didn't score. So that is something that he's planned for and something that this team has to consider and something that we need to work towards. And I think Struna is a great addition for something like that, right? And I think Struna is a great kind of defender that we can use either with 3. Like, here's the reason why Struna was a good signing. We can use him when we're down. When we're up as either a ball-handling winger or a 3-in-the-back defender that can hold on to the ball, or we can use him as an offensive winger when we're down. So great signing, a perfect modern MLS signing. But at the same time, Toronto doesn't fit the mold because, like, they spend their money in different places, and for some reason they found enough cohesion in their back line. It doesn't really have to do with the talent level or money to make them an efficient 5 in the back. It's not right. Soccer's not rocket science. But I don't know. I'm a traditionalist. I think you need to have a center back that is unbeatable if you want to be called the best team in the league.
Yeah, I don't know who's unbeatable.
But someone that can lead that group in the center.
You don't have a mic. No one knows what you're saying, but that's okay. I took it away from you for a reason.
Roddy Russell Jr.
But I appreciate you being here. I know.
Roddy Russell Jr. wants to know, in this game, NYCFC, the back line led the team in touches. In a game where NYFC's leading, do you think that the defense should be having more touches than the midfielder or the offense? I mean, because that it shows that the offense wasn't getting it done, and you don't expect the offense to have too many touches because really they want to be quick with the ball. But you would just think that the the defense would be able to get the ball to McNamara, to a Pirlo, to a Maxi Morales, and control it and have that possession be further up the field.
Well, what's unfortunate is that I think it's beside that point. I think what's more important is the fact that this team has not had a transition offense, even when we have had a healthy starting 11. I mean, there has not been a consistent ability in start. I mean, I was watching. I know that Tottenham lost today, but they didn't lose. They drew, which felt like a loss, especially against Swansea. But watching a team like that in transition, like the precision of their passing and their ability to move the ball upfield every single time they took advantage of a turnover, and to see this team all season never have opportunities like that outside of the goal we had against Red Bulls the last time we saw them. That's what needs to be more consistent. I think Maxi's a big help, but like not having Ring and Herrera, it's a big ask to make our build from the back system fit a counterattack offense. I think building from the back works all the time outside of against a high press. And I think they used it well in this game, but I think they did the best they could, all things considered, with all the injuries we had and with the personnel we had. Does that make sense? That was a lot of sports jargon, like dumb pancaking.
The only challenge I have to you is that Vieira talks about playing a specific style and having it. It doesn't matter who's on the field, that the style should be able to, everybody should be able to play the same way. And I just don't get that sense. I think that you've seen guys come into games and struggle and not be able to execute the way that he's wanted. And you wonder if he's not paying enough attention to the training, if he's not giving these guys enough repetitions to where they can't execute when he wants them to.
Well, the counterpoint to that is, in terms of training, we see it's hard to see any players losing confidence or dropping off like we've seen in the past, right? You don't see players with off-the-field issues as much. You don't see players like Miss Discarud not taking advantage of their talents. You don't see players disappearing for multiple games at a time. Like, that is the one positive. That's the reason why we're the number 2 seed in the East. The training of this team, defenders playing above their expectations. I think the training has been great. I think the set pieces training has been good. I mean, there's a lot of positive things to take away training-wise. Outside of that, substitutions are weird. Personnel management and, like, having to deal with the team that we have is just a difficult cookie to swallow, and I think that's what we've had to deal with in the last 2 games. It's like it's a real Russian roulette, but 5 out of the 6 chambers have bullets. You know what I'm saying? That's very poetic of me. Also, I have a poem on Copa 90 right now. It's got 65,000 views. If you want to check it out, just saying.
It's a well-deserved plug. It's definitely something that I've checked out. It's
you got to plug it.
Nice work. We haven't talked about the goal, so probably one of the last segments we'll do tonight. Tommy McNamara is a screamer. It's one of the reasons why Tommy McNamara has the reputation that he does, because he tends to put these amazing rocket shots into the back of the net, and to beat Tim Howard is, unless you're Urania, it's pretty difficult.
You've asked me too many questions tonight, so I'm going to leave this one to you while I go find someone in the audience. You didn't even ask me a question, but the question is, what do you think of the build-up to that goal and Tommy McNamara finally scoring a screamer this year? Go ahead. Also, I love your shirt. Can you show it to the camera more? Hartford City, established 2017. I love it.
Representing Hartford City. Trey's going to go out and search out a question, but all right. Well, no, let's get Mike to talk about the goal. Good. Are you turned on?
Joke. Check. Oh, it didn't get my funny joke. That's okay. We got Blue Meanie Mike here. What's up? What's your question?
No. So first, the first is give us the reaction to the goal, because McNamara scored goals like that in the past, but he's been very quiet this season. He hasn't done as much as with the amount of minutes he's had. He's worn the armband the last 3 games, and this is the first time where he really got in an advanced position and kind of left Pirlo in the back by himself.
I guess my reaction to the goal is when you're playing a team like Colorado, which is a very defensive team, and they're packing the box a lot, those are the kinds of shots you should take, and those are the kinds of goals you're going to get. And when you think about the season, our team loves to pass to set up for the perfect shot. And I kind of wonder if Tommy has been coached not to take those long shots with the potential of if the shot gets missed, then you have a whole bunch of people forward and there's a counter.
I feel like that would be a weird thing to coach a player to do. Hey, don't take advantage of opportunities. But that's fine. That's just my opinion. My question to you, Blue Meanie Mike, is Kyra Shelton over Axel Sjoberg the worst decision this team has made in the history of this franchise?
Let's not forget that Roldan was in that.
Also, Christian Roldan, who was the number 2 prospect going into that draft. He ended up dropping to Seattle in the late teens. Ugh. Then we wouldn't need Ring. We wouldn't need Chanel, whatever.
Sure, in retrospect, maybe. But if you really think about it, Vieira wasn't our coach then. We had a completely different way to set up our team. We were a team that was built around Frank Lampard. I mean, yes, if we knew Patrick Vieira was going to be our coach and we were going to play a different way, yes, we would have drafted differently in year 1. We also would have set up the entire team differently in year 1. But we didn't. So, I mean, year 1 was it's a mulligan, and it was an expansion year. And
you literally just performed chiropractic on my psyche. I didn't really think about it that way, so I appreciate it. Mike, thanks for sticking around. What was it? Wait, you were going to ask us something? You don't just want attention? What is this?
No. So we have 5 games left, 1 home game because Hartford doesn't count. We have 51 points. What are we going to end up with? And are we going to stay in second place?
Wow, he's having us do math this late in the episode. So the question was 5 games left, 51 points currently, and what are we going to end up with?
Someone's yelling about bullshit over there. I don't know what's going on.
Going into
my language, sorry.
Going into the last 9 games. So this would have been right after the Red Bull draw. So since then we've gotten 4. I was expecting that we were going to get 15. So we've got 11 more points to get out of the last 5 games. So that would be what? 3 victories and 2 draws? That's tough. Because you're not going to get, yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking. But I guess I was thinking about that because I was considering Colorado to be 3, if not, Colorado to be 3 and maybe Portland to be 1. So I was figuring that NYCFC would get 15 points out of the last 9 games that they had.
What's more important, I think, the question is not how we do in every game. I think it really is how we do against Chicago and how we do against Columbus, right? Because Columbus is the last home game, and we have to take those points. We have to take 3 to secure whatever space we're in, whether it's 3 or 2 or 4, whatever. And then Chicago is an away game and against an Eastern Conference opponent that will be chasing us. So I think those are the 2 games that matter. And I think we need to expect 6 points from those games, especially when we have beaten Chicago. We beat them, right? Did we beat Chicago? You would know this. Did we beat Chicago at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we should expect 6 points from those games. And I think if we do, there's no doubt we get the 2nd seed. And that's what we should expect, whatever happens in the other games. That's why I think this game, I'm not mad that he put in James Sands and Struna. I mean, they're both good players, too. Outside of that point is the fact that, this is an opportunity to give people minutes, to get David Villa back on the field, whatever. So you take what you can get. Obviously, tonight was disappointing in more than one way, but this team just needs as much time as it needs to find itself and to get back to where it was when we had good streaks, and hope that we can catch it in the playoffs.
The last player, we talked about him briefly, but Andrea Pirlo had a free kick, put it off the crossbar. And who had the header, the follow-up header? Was it?
It was Brillant into Maxi Morales.
Into Maxi Morales. So as much as everyone wants Maxi Morales to score a goal off his head, he actually got a save off his head tonight, because that looked like it was going in, that Brillant's follow-up was going into the goal.
It was.
But the free kick from Pirlo, because everyone has been critical of Andrea Pirlo, rightfully so, of his free kicks. My last question to you, and I thought about this as I saw Pirlo jogging over to take a corner kick tonight. When teams, opposing players, coaches think of David Villa, they think of David Villa, the World Cup winner who can kill you, can really cost you a game. What do they think? What do you think they think of when they see Andrea Pirlo in the starting lineup?
Well, obviously they think that there's never taking him lightly, and you can't. He's put in good performances, whether it's 5 minutes a game or 60 minutes a game. He's put in good performances, and those minutes can kill you if you're a team. So you have to be aware of that. I don't think teams are less expectant of an offense if Andrea Pirlo is in the lineup in NYCFC in 2017, because I think that he has proven himself this year to be someone that can be potent when he needs to be potent. Obviously, he's made mistakes. Obviously, he doesn't have the legs that he used to. But at the same time, he's Andrea Pirlo. He has the ability to change the game if he needs to, especially with that free kick. That was very close. There's no, and more importantly, this is a player, Colorado's got a big field. This is a player that can stretch the field. He's the only player we have on the field, bar none, that can stretch the field. And I'm not afraid to say that. Ring, Herrera, Maxi, those players are not players that stretch the field.
RJ Allen.
RJ Allen can stretch the field. Sugarfoot is getting his touch back. Sugarfoot is back.
But Mike made a great point while we were watching the game. Part of that was the tactics of Colorado. This was a game that was actually custom built for Pirlo to play, because Colorado had so many guys behind the ball. They weren't pressing in the midfield, so you knew that Pirlo was going to have that extra second or two to adjust.
Well, they did press early on in the game, but we did have to use Pirlo as a release valve for a little bit. But at the same time, you're right. All things considered, I think you have a good point. This team is built for Pirlo to take advantage of, and he did not do as much as he could have. But yeah, I don't know. I think we took advantage when we needed to. I mean, Pirlo was the one who held up the ball that led to Tommy's goal. So if you want to talk about, something like that, that happened. But at the same time, and then after that, you play a little more conservatively because you have a lead away.
Does Jack Harrison get a rest against Houston?
Oh, my God, you're using the bit. This is amazing. No, because that's a week away. He's got 7 days, and he's our second best. I mean, he's our best winger that we have, period. So you need him to play.
You need him to play, but you also realize Villa, whether it be because of injury or just because other factors, has had, 3 weeks off. Harrison has been towing that line in Villa's absence and going into that international break. So, yes, Harrison got the 1 week off, but going into that international break, Harrison was in dire need of a rest. He's been doing so much defensive work. I think, quite honestly, the last 2 games when he's played the false nine have been the 2 games where he's had to do the least amount of effort because he's not pressing as much. He's not coming back on the wings.
But at the same time, what's interesting is, I hope you would agree with me, the game he looked the best out of the last 3 was against Kansas City when he was doing defensive work. So at the same time, if he's going to thrive in that situation, then I'm all for him playing. If he feels like he can put the team on his back when he needs to. The problem is that he's had about 9 or 10 opportunities in the last 2 months to put the team on his back, and he hasn't done so. So hopefully he can, and he knows that. He does know that. I mean, after the Kansas City game, he did say, I haven't been playing so well. I needed the break to get my head together. I'm glad I got the goal. So, a game like tonight's not extremely positive, but going forward, playing in Connecticut where he's, playing before, and he's going to want, the opportunity to make up for anything and hopefully pick up his week. Like, that's one of the biggest unknown questions that is being under considered is, will Jack Harrison get back to first half of the season form going into the playoffs? Because if he doesn't, I don't know if we can get past the first round.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I right now, until I see him get some rest, I don't think so. I think teams have figured out how to keep him pinned back. They'll especially with the play of Rodney Wallace. Keep in mind, if Wallace was giving the same effort that he was giving.
You make a good point. No. I know he's not listening. Don't worry.
It's not about effort, but it's about effectiveness. If Wallace was putting as much pressure on defenses from the opposite side, it allows Villa and Harrison a little more space. You know that Villa is going to be the first target. Harrison is the natural second target, and Wallace is the guy who was helping draw some attention away from Jack Harrison. Well, now that Wallace has kind of gone cold, Jack Harrison is getting a lot more attention, and that's been one of the concerns. So I don't know how much of it's about Jack Harrison as it is about the players around him.
No, I think it's more about Jack Harrison, but that's okay. He has enough talent to get around defenders, but he's just like a little cold. I mean, it's the same thing we see with Christian Pulisic on the American team. Like, the second they start seeing more than one defender, they freak out. I mean, we saw that from Jack last year, and now we're seeing it again. And, he'll get past it. He's got enough talent to get past it, but he does need, he can't do it all on his own. He's not that good. Like, that is otherworldly good, and he's not there yet, and that's fine. That is a fine expectation to have from him. We just need multiple people to be in good form going into the playoffs, as any team going into the playoffs needs. So I'm going to say optimistic.
Does Rodney Wallace
for no reason? I don't know.
Does Rodney Wallace start next Saturday against?
Yeah. Because again, to that same point I was talking about, you need multiple players on form to play well in the playoffs. The players that used to be on form, Rodney Wallace, who was a freaking spark plug at the beginning of the season, Jack Harrison, who was great in the first half of the season. If they're not on form now, you need to give them as many minutes as possible, especially when you're pretty comfortable in the standings and you're playing a West Coast team, to get back on form before you get into the playoffs. That's just smart man management. That has nothing to do with stats, has nothing to do with opponents. It's all in terms of looking towards the future.
Did you answer the points total at the end of the season question?
No, I'm not. I'm not good with specifics.
What do you think Toronto's going to end at? 68? Are they going to beat the 68-point record?
I don't know what the rest of their schedule looks like because I don't care. But
I don't think the rest of their schedule matters really.
I think it matters. It matters if they travel. What's the schedule like?
Well, they got 6 games left.
Okay.
I don't know who they're playing, but they have 6 games left. I know they have to play Toronto twice, Red Bull once.
Toronto plays Toronto twice?
I'm sorry, they have to play Montreal twice, Red Bull once. They're currently on 59 points. That doesn't include the LA game that they're playing in.
Yeah,
right
they can
now.
beat the record. I mean, Montreal's scary. They have Jamaili now, right? And he's a terrifying player. And Piatti is, probably third in MVP right now. So it's hard for them. But at the same time, I think they have a chance.
But it's, so NYCFC on 51 points. You don't have a thought as, are they going to, well, okay, so I'll make it easy on you.
I've lost enough money betting.
Are they going to keep the second?
Specific.
Are they going to keep the
I'm pretty confident we'll keep the second spot. I think that Vieira knows that too, and he's going to – this is the hardest part about being a manager, right? It's like you're at the end of the season, and you know that you need to keep – the second seed is so important, but at the same time, you know that you need to keep players in form, and you need to keep players happy, which is like which when you're a manager feels like the stupidest thing, but it's the most important thing, is to keep players happy, which is contrast to keeping players in form, and – you need to, play well enough in the off games. So he has to navigate all those things, and he has to play well against those East Coast teams that we mentioned, Columbus and Chicago. So I think that it's very difficult, but I have confidence that he's smart enough to know that he needs to focus on those 2 games. And somehow, I'm glad I'm not the manager, figure out what he has to do before, after, and in between those games to make those games matter the most.
So I just want to close out and say thanks to Louie back at the bar. Thanks to Ryan's daughter for having us for another episode
y'all.
of City Post Game Live. Thank you, Trey, for joining me tonight. It's a late night, but it's been a lot of fun.
I'm always awake at this hour.
You going to Hartford next week?
I am going to Hartford. You're going to Hartford?
You are going to Hartford?
You're wearing the shirt, man.
I won't be. I don't know if I'll be wearing this shirt.
So if I can't get compensated travel, would you be willing to drive me? I think we are, though, right?
Yeah.
I hope so. I want to go. I have an ex-girlfriend that lives right next to the stadium, and I want to give her the big bird. Rah! I'm not going to do it.
So, guys, thanks again for tuning into City Post Game Live. It's hard to imagine that we only have 2 more games to do in the regular season. Right?
Away games?
How many more away games are there?
Yeah. If we do, so if we're both going to Connecticut, and then we got
4,
3.
So three away games.
3 away games.
One of them I'm supposed to be in Connecticut to do one of the shows in Connecticut with Martin Beal. And then the other game is Montreal, a Wednesday night game. And I might actually be trying to get to Montreal. So
you're going to go to Montreal?
It's on the.
It's a great city, I've heard.
But guys, thanks again. And
I don't have a passport.
For, more episodes of City Post Game Live on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, guys. My name's... Wait. You didn't let me do plugs.
Do plugs.
My name's Trey Fillmore. I'm part of Blue Balls Pod. I'm one half of Blue Balls NYCFC. My other half is Jake Beckard. My Twitter handle is at Trey Fillmore. He is at Jake Beck Nation. We are both at Blue Balls Pod, at Blue Balls Pod. And follow us on our podcast or on Twitter. Thank you so much.
And I'm Mike Ander from Blue City Radio. You guys have been great. Thanks so much. You have a good night.
Bye.